Recently, Disney released their newest addition to the wonderful remakes pile.
That is one big pile of shit.
With the release of the new Percy Jackson show, there's been much controversy among the fans. Some believe the show to be faithful adaptation that they were looking for, filling the hole that was left behind by the movies, while others believe the show to be a disjointed, badly written mess. I bet you can guess which side of the fence I'm on. So, let's talk about it. Why did Percy Jackson and the Olympians fall flat so hard? Percy Jackson, which is based on the popular book series, is a show about the demigod son of Poseidon, which follows Percy, Annabeth, and Grover as they embark on a journey to find who stole Zeus's lightning bolt. Throughout their adventure, they encounter many monsters and foes alike. They run into Medusa, who conveniently lives very close to camp. They encounter a Fury, one of Hades' servants, and even a Chimera. Throughout the show, one thing is abundantly clear. The show was not made for newcomers to the franchise. Not even people who had watched the movies. The only way you would understand a lot of what's going on in the show is if you've read the books. During the show, somehow, there is too much talking, yet very little is actually explained. Huge fans of the books will probably enjoy the show and be okay with its lack of explanation. However, if you have not read the books and are just watching the show, you'll be incredibly confused to why characters are doing certain things or acting in certain ways. I've read a couple of the Percy Jackson spin-offs, but none of the main storylines, so I wouldn't say I'm a huge fan of the franchise, but I do like it. I grew up with the movies, which I'm aware aren't book accurate, but they are good movies in their own right. To give Percy Jackson some credit, although it was a pretty bad show, it did seem like everyone behind the scenes was trying to make a good show at least. You could tell that the effort had been put into making the show, and the writers and directors just didn't succeed at making it any good, which is more than can be said for other TV shows these days. There's also a lot of different things that the show sets up that could have been awesome payoffs, such as Percy fighting against Ares, the god of war. As someone seeing this for the first time, it seems very unlikely that Percy, who has just started his first adventure and only just discovered his powers, would be able to take on the god of war and win. What the show doesn't tell you, or even really hint at, is that in the books it's explained that demigods of the main three gods are usually more powerful than all the other gods. That's something that would have been pretty important to explain in the show. Without the explanation, it seems like Percy just has more plot armor than an MCU Phase 4 main character. And that's the worst thing about the show. It seems to be made for die-hard fans to point out that they all know what this and that means, which is cool and all, if it was done subtly and tastefully, whereas they often throw these things in as the main plot points. For example, who was the guy at the bed store in the 7th episode? Why did they go there? I'm sure it's explained in the books, but not in the series. There's a lot of instances throughout the show which made it pretty difficult to watch at times. From what I've heard, the show is also quite different from the books. I won't speak too much on it as I haven't read the books, but from what I do know, Ares is actually a good fighter in the books and is very dangerous, which is very different to his slow, brutish attacks in the show. Luke is supposed to be very intelligent, charming, and scary, but in the show, he barely even gets any screen time to demonstrate that. Also, the change in Annabeth happens pretty instantly. She's very tightly wound and rude for a portion of the series. Then, at the beginning of one episode, she's friendly and acts as if she's been a good friend to Percy the entire time. It's a very jarring change in her character, as if the writers couldn't figure out how to incorporate her character arc naturally. Not to mention that Annabeth, Grover, and Percy all have little to no personality other than the occasional MCU style quip here and there that everyone these days just can't get enough of. Throughout the show, they encounter different monsters which they have to defeat in one way or another, which would be cool if it were done properly. They always seem to defeat the monsters with ease. Percy just sort of stabs the Fury as soon as he sees it. Medusa is dead within about a minute. They don't really face any challenges throughout the show. Later on in the show, there's a throne that someone needs to sit on to unlock a MacGuffin for the plot to advance. The catch is that the throne turns the person sitting on it to gold. Percy heroically sacrifices himself to get the item. Pretty big decision. Pretty good demonstration of how he is as a person. But unfortunately, the sacrifice means nothing anyway because Annabeth basically just asks the owner to let him go. It undercuts the entire sacrifice. Yes, I know Percy still has a lot to do in the show, and the writers couldn't exactly get rid of the main character, but it feels very cheap when they walk away from certain death in extremely difficult situations because the writers need them to. I also think that all the monsters have been made a lot less scary, as they want to make the show for younger audience, which I completely get. However, I feel as if it ruins the tone of these monsters being a threat, even if they are book accurate. I like the way they introduced the Fury and the Minotaur in the movies, where they didn't show them properly at first, creating suspense. I'll never forget how creepy it was seeing the Minotaur in the distance sprinting across the field after the car, and when you finally do see it, the thing looks pretty menacing to say the least. Compare that to the new one, which is wearing underwear. I know it's probably book accurate, but it still removes most of the suspense. The same goes for the new Fury design. It looks like something out of a Disney cartoon rather than a live action show about gods and monsters. Overall, the show suffers from many things, from horrible pacing, poor CGI and monster design, to very, very flawed writing. As I said before, the one plus I can give to the show is that it doesn't try to be bad like so many other remakes that are coming out these days. I genuinely get the impression that the writers were trying to make a good show, which I'm all for. I think right now all we can do is hope that they listen to people's criticisms and improve the next season. I really hope the show can reach its full potential. Anyway, that's just my thoughts. If you enjoyed the video, please hit the like and subscribe button if you're new, it really helps me out. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below, and go watch this video on screen right now. It's a pretty good one, I promise.